Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler. Got a great show with you tonight. Looks like Frank Reich's already been fired. Great game there for Bills-Eagles. Talk about how the Bills defense really let down the team and Josh Allen. Good scope, bad scope, and more. Let's go ahead and get our first and only break out of the way. We'll hit the ground running here on Sports Scope here in about 49 seconds. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then. Thank you there, Pickles. Okay. All right. Bills, Eagles. You know, that really turned out, I said that would probably be the best game of the weekend. And sure enough, in the professional games, it was. They were great college games. I'll get to them probably on Wednesday. Hope to get John on here. John, if you got my message on Twitter here, try to get John Restano, get his take there on the Ohio State side of Ohio State and Michigan. But first, okay, let me say this, folks. Very impressive performance by both Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. Considering the conditions, folks, Philadelphia, it was raining like nobody's business. I mean, raining. There were total downpours in this game. And of course, I lost, but I took the under in that particular game, thinking that this game is going to be in the 20s, maybe in the teens. You know, it goes to show you this is such a quarterback-driven league. Everything else is way overstated in 2023 as far as the quality of play there. I mean, and look at the quarterback play of the Jets, for example. Look at the quarterback play of the even though it was a lot of yards, wasn't a lot of scoring between the Bengals and the Steelers, for example. Okay, but you know, I have to take my hat off. I mean, this was a 37-24 game in overtime and a downpour. So you got to give kudos, and I had to look this up to the folks that run Lincoln Financial there. They've got a field turf and grass combination. It's called Bermuda grass. Is what it's called. I didn't see anybody slip. Do you guys remember the Super Bowl? 120 million of you watched it, including myself. Did you notice all the slippage? This wasn't even in rain on the turf between the Super Bowl this past year between the Eagles and the Chiefs. There were guys sliding all over the place. This poured down rain, downpours. And Lincoln Financial, really good job. Everything was squared away. But I have to say this. My grievance, if you want to say, my blame, if you wanted to say, is the Bills get a 10-point lead at halftime, 17 What was it, 17-7, something like that? Makes no never mind. All right. They had a 10-point lead at halftime. They're 6-5. They desperately need this game. Okay. This Bills team. And I'm going to ask myself, and if I am a Bills fan, and I am looking at this game, I'm thinking to myself, where's Von Miller at, man? He played the game. He didn't show up in the box score. But where is Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Rasheed Douglas, Ed Oliver, Greg Rossanu, Jordan Phillips? Where you guys at, man? What? The Bills, Ed Warder put this out, NFL Reporter. The Bills are the 40th team since the 1970 merger to have 500 yards, 10 third down conversions, and a positive turnover margin in the game. They're the first team to lose in that scenario. The previous teams were 39-0. Again, Micah Hyde, Jordan Palmer, Ed Oliver, Von Miller, you're getting paid a lot of money, man. You can't let Jalen Hurts run for 65 yards and 2 touchdowns. He threw for 3 touchdowns. This guy had a great day. And on top of all that, Lane Johnson was out. The Eagles have a losing record when right tackle Lane Johnson does not play. That's why the Jets beat them. They have a losing record when Lane Johnson does not play. Okay? The Bills should have won this game. I mean, Josh Allen ran for 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. He threw for 2 touchdowns. He did have a crucial pick in the second half. But again, Sean McDermott, I mean, where's your defense at, man? You need this game bad. The Eagles were in a sandwich game. They played on Monday night. They got to play the world beater San Francisco 49ers. They want to get that 1 seed. They got to play them next Sunday. I can't wait for that game. 4:30 Eastern, right? You're the lowly old Buffalo Bills who desperately need that game. And coming into that game, folks, Joe Burrow's done. So their nemesis, Cincinnati Bengals, they're out of it. They're out of it in the AFC. They're competing with Denver. They're competing with Miami, who they've already beat this year. Okay? They're competing with the Ravens, who they beat last year. All right? And Jacksonville, who they match up pretty well against. So, you guys are getting paid a lot of money too, man. Especially Micah Hyde. Especially Von Miller. You cannot let them score, what was it, like a 3rd and 19 in the second half? He cannot let that happen, man. And, of course, I do put it on McDermott. Another reason to move on from McDermott. You can't get your side of the ball right in games like this. It's pouring down rain. You cannot give up that 10-point lead. And, yes, Jalen Hurts, the guy, 5 touchdowns total, 65 yards rushing, 200 yards passing, was sacked twice, did throw 1 interception, but it wasn't enough in a 37-34 overtime. It was a great game. It was a great game. It was as advertised, as I said it would be, folks. But, that's another strike against Sean McDermott right there. And I'll say this. A lot of people are seeing the Eagles right now. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the Cowboys. They beat the Bills. And they're looking like total. They're looking like total world beaters. All right. They've also gave up a lot of yardage. They were outgained again on yardage offensively. So their defense is just not that good on the back end. The Tennessee Titans in 2000, they lost the Super Bowl. They lost 3 games by a total of 7 points. And they look like total world beaters. Statistically, one of the best defenses in the league. Steve McNair already played in the Super Bowl. Looked like a total lock. Got put out in the divisional round. Last year, you look at down the stretch, the Bengals looked like they were going to cruise to a win before the heart attack there of Damar Hamlin. They beat the Chiefs for a 3rd time last year. Looked like a total lock to get back to the Super Bowl, perhaps win it. They were beat in the AFC Championship game by the Bills. Teams that lose the Super Bowl, other teams around the league, no matter how good you are, teams around the league get way up for you. So that is my stance on why are they getting down in every game. They were down by 10 last week against the Chiefs because everybody knows they're good. Everybody knows they're good. Okay. So Washington got them down, right? Twice, I want to say, and then they came back and won. Dallas had a shot. Everybody knows that they're good, and I do think that because they lost that Super Bowl, I still stand that they will not get back, or they will not win it this year. They might get back, but I doubt it. But a lot will be said about the Eagles come up next week when they play the 49ers. But I said Lane Johnson could get hurt again. He did. I said Jason Kelce had a lot of penalties in this game, but he did have some good blocks too. Could get hurt again. He's 36. He's older than his brother Travis, who's having a hard time staying healthy at Kansas City. So all of that is and I'm not hating on the Eagles. I'm just telling the truth, man. These are facts. Lane Johnson's 34 years old, 33, 34 years old. Kelce's 36 years old. Jalen Hurts is getting banged up. He looks great, but he's getting hit a lot in these little tush-push type of scenario situations. And I think eventually, even if they get the 1 seed, it's not looking good for them long-term to win out in this particular season. Okay. And plus they're, Go Dirt is out, by the way. Yeah. Dallas Go Dirt is out. I mean, so the injuries are starting to mount. They don't know if Lane Johnson's going to play next week. He had a growing injury. He practiced all week, Lane Johnson did. And that was late in the week when this growing injury occurred. And it's bothering him. He wanted to play in warm-ups and he couldn't go. And they still won. I put all that blame on McDermott. Allen made a costly turnover, but he basically can't play any better than that. The defense has got to get stops, man. They've got to get stops. You know Hurts is going to run the ball, and you let him do it anyways. In the rain, make him throw for it. Of course, he makes some big throws too, though. Makes some big throws. Hit Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown for a touchdown there. So that's it in a nutshell. Wanted to talk about this the other day with Carlos, but we were really looking ahead. The Jets. I go on a show on Sunday, Mac and Jack. Jack Hirsch he's a big Jets fan, on the Mac and Jack and Jim Jeffcoat show, big Sunday football show. And they were asking me yesterday, Sunday show, about this Jets team. And, it was an embarrassing loss. Looked like the team gave up on that pick 6 on Friday afternoon. Was it Javon Holland? I want to say Next Generation Stats had this guy run back 124-yard Hail Mary touchdown. How was that even possible? With him running to the side and everything, it was technically a 99-yard, but of course, Next Generation Stats said it was 124 yards total ran. Totally broke the game wide open for the Dolphins. We know what happened. They end up blowing out the Jets in that particular game. And, of course, they've already moved off Zach Wilson. But they got to look in the mirror. They, meaning, I don't know, Mr. Wilson, the owner there, Joe Douglas, the general manager, and Woodson, I think is his name. Means no, never mind. And say, listen, Alan Lazard was a healthy scratch Friday. That was one of Aaron Rodgers' receivers that he handpicked for them to sign in the offseason. Randall Cobb, he wasn't injured. I didn't even see his name in the box score. I guess he's out there doing something. That was another Aaron Rodgers guy. Of course, now you've got Nathaniel Hackett there. And the truth of the matter is they got to say, hey, listen, we made a mistake here. All right. Maybe you get Aaron Rodgers for one more year. But this whole thing is blown up in their face. Own it and move on. Okay. They absolutely have to have a left tackle and a quarterback. All right. And if I'm that owner and general manager, if I keep that general manager, I'm looking at Robert Saleh. I'm evaluating him. And I'm looking at this draft pick, which is they've got the 8th pick next year. And I'm saying to myself, okay, we need 2 picks here. What's the guy named Jalen Phillips or whatever? Jalen Daniels. He looks to be a good player. That's a player out of LSU. That's another good quarterback that's going to be eligible for the draft. But you're the Jets here. You're at 4-7, and you look at a team like the Bears, who've got the number 1 overall pick because they got Carolina's pick. I'll talk about the Frank Wright firing here in a minute, and they got the number 4 pick. You look at Washington, who's got the number 5 pick, who just fired their defensive coordinator on Friday after they got roasted by the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving. 28 touchdowns passing. They lead the league in passing touchdowns given up. Ron Rivera fired Jack Del Rio. They need a cornerback. I will look at Sauce Gardner and I'll say, listen, Robert, I know you love Sauce Gardner. I like Sauce too, okay? But he's coming into his 3rd year, and he's not winning us games, okay? We need to keep that 8th pick. There's about 4 tackles in this draft who are considered really good. Don't think you'll get that left tackle from Penn State, but there's 3 or 4, maybe 5 quarterbacks, okay? What we need to do is we need to get one of those left tackles and potentially get one of those quarterbacks. So I'm going to talk to Chicago at 4. I'm going to talk to Washington at 5. And I'm going to say, okay, do you want a Pro Bowl potential All-Pro cornerback on a rookie contract? And Sauce Gardner. They have to get that left tackle, okay? Sauce Gardner does not protect the quarterback. Once these owners figure this out, get a quarterback, protect the quarterback, everything else is nonsense. If you don't get that right, defenses, they get injured easy, they wear down easy, because if they stay on the field too long, nobody's going to agree with me here. But either him or Quentin Williams, but as good as Gardner is, and because he's on a rookie contract, if you could get one of these left tackles, which Joe Douglas has missed on, if you could get one of these quarterbacks, which Joe Douglas has missed on, That's like I said, if he wants to go with Joe Douglas again, you talk to Chicago, who's going to be up there with one of their picks. It's not going to be the number one pick. Washington, teams like this, and see if they want Gardner. All right? One of them will probably bite on Sauce Gardner and give you that pick. Gardner was a top 5 pick a few years ago. He's 6 foot tall. He's considered an elite corner. Okay? You could go out and get another corner later. All right? But you've got to get that left tackle right. And there's plenty of quarterbacks out there. With that 8th pick, my guess is one of them will be there. Now, at the 5 pick, if you got a JJ McCartney you're really high on out of Michigan, take him at 5, get the tackle, maybe the one from Alabama, get the tackle at 8. But either way, go ahead and do that, even if you keep Rodgers on this year, because that hole on the Jets right now is not a small hole. That is a gaping hole, man, and that is sinking the ship. Okay? That is totally sinking the ship. And that is exactly what I would do here. And if you got to own the fact that Alan Lazard, this Aaron Rodgers, this whole experiment has blown up in your face. You're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to pivot and use your assets. They do not have a second-round pick. That second-round pick is going back to the Packers. They have the 8th pick because Rodgers hadn't took that many snaps this year. He got hurt. Okay? So you're going to have to dump Zach Wilson. If you can get a 7th or 8th round pick. If you get a 6th or 7th round pick for Wilson, great. If not, cut him. He's a $5 million cap hit. These are ripping the Band-Aid off type of decisions that need to be made instead of him hauling around, because that's exactly what they're doing right now, is him hauling around, hoping for a miracle that is not going to happen right now. They cannot block people up front. This guy has missed. Own it and move on. Everybody misses, okay? So that's what I do if I'm in that ownership. And Sauce Gardner will be the guy that is Woody Johnson. Thank you. I don't know why Woodson. I don't know where I got Woodson from. Woody Johnson. So Woody Johnson, that's what he needs to do, man. That is exactly what he needs to do, because they're not where they need to be. And, you got a 39-year-old quarterback coming back from Achilles injury. Let's be realistic here, folks. Let's be realistic here, So anyways, all right, speaking of impatience. So Frank Reich was fired this morning. The Titans get off the schneid. I said I think they would beat the Carolina Panthers. We talked about this, Carlos, last week, that they needed to beat the Panthers to save Mike Vrabel. I wish they would have lost to him, but I didn't want Amy Adams Strunk to overreact and fire Mike Vrabel. They did beat the Panthers. 2 touchdowns, Derrick Henry. Good game for Tennessee. Of course, now instead of drafting 6, now you're drafting like 10th. Go figure. I watched this thing. They're drafted 10th right now at 4-7. So Frank Reich fired first year after a 1-10 start here. And I'll tell you, it's a really interesting. So I read this off ESPN, and I've talked about this before with this David Tepper guy. How about his lack of patience? I got this off ESPN. It says Carolina Panthers owner David Tepper fired Frank Reich on Monday, less than 24 hours after the owner left the locker room muttering the F word following 17-10 loss. Reich's tenure at Carolina ended with the NFL 1-10 record which is going to the Chicago Bears, including the 0-6 mark on the road. He also becomes the first NFL coach since 1970, folks, manager to be fired in back-to-back seasons after last year dismantle from the Indianapolis Colts. So 2 crazy owners. Rex Ryan said he looked like he aged 10 years. He looked like one of those presidents after they leave. And I thought to myself, Jim Irsay's owing him money. Now this guy, Tepper's owing him. This guy's probably got $70-80 million in back pay, Pickles. 63-year-old Frank Wright. So I'm not feeling bad for him. He's going to be okay. He's going to be a-okay. Yes, he didn't show a lot of patience with Wright. Wright is a little passive as a head coach. Probably not head coaching material. Probably more better suited to be a coordinator, I would say. But David Tepper says, I met with Coach Wright this morning and informed him that he will not continue as a head coach of Carolina Panthers. I want to thank him for his dedication. Frank told the Charlotte Observer that he wasn't done with coaching, but he added, this is probably his final chapter of my NFL journey. So maybe he's going to go to college or something. So they also fired Deuce Staley and Josh McCown. Those are two former players that played for the team here. I'll say this. This guy, and I told you guys this beforehand, all right? He has had, and I've got the notes here in just a second. He's had Ron Rivera, he fired when he first took over in 2018. A guy named Perry Fewell was the interim coach. Might as well have been Jerry Falwell, because I never heard of him. Then he paid Matt Rule. He's still paying Matt Rule $72 million coach out of college. Rule's back with Nebraska now. And Tepper still owes him a boatload of money. Steve Wilkes was the interim coach. And then Frank Wright, now a guy named Chris Tabor, okay? And Jeremy Fowler said a glimpse into David Tepper's ownership, a style of late 2022, he wrote on the team's 3-year journey. What did he put here? Embattled the Panthers from embattled owner Jerry Richardson in 2018. The Pittsburgh born and raised Tepper amazed a Fortune hedge fund manager. In the winter of 2023, less than 3 years into his tenure, Tepper was discovering, this is what Jeremy Fowler put, that success in pro football was more elusive. Teams were lucky to hit on 3 picks in a draft. Free agent acquisitions sometimes didn't work out. The reality is the reality didn't sit well with Tepper. According to one front office sports, he expects football guys to be 100% right, like they're evaluating a balance sheet. Sometimes they're flat out wrong, the source says. Okay, so he's got to be more patient. I've said this about Jimmy. Sometimes I think these guys watch the show, Pickles. Because I said this about Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns. Now, he's been more patient with Stefanski. He's got a lot of Harvard guys in there, a lot of statisticians. Now, he's showing some more patience, and I know they're hitting a rough spot now, but they've got a winning record up there in Cleveland, and they've been to the playoffs the year before last, and they've got a pretty decent team, all things considered, that their quarterback is out for the season. And the rookie's not doing too bad, even though he got a little roughed up yesterday. But he's got to realize that, okay, this just, making these wild moves here, yes, this stuff gets headlines, but this guy's got a temper. He'll realize, like Jerry Jones did years ago, like a Daniel Snyder did, he simply doesn't know what he's doing. He needs to go out there and investigate who's the best general manager and personnel people he can get. Again, I've said this before about these owners. Look at from assistants from Philadelphia, who's probably got the best roster in football, Baltimore, who's probably the best drafting team in the past 23 years in the NFL, Green Bay, Kansas City, and Pittsburgh. If you just look at the scouts that work for those organizations and someone that's preferably Baltimore, I would, and say, I want to pluck this guy, this guy, and this guy, and I'm going to give 3 to 5 year minimum, 3-year minimum, no matter what happens, not unless it's something unethical. I'm going to give these guys a shot here, okay? Then I'm going to go out and get an offensive-minded head coach, a competent offensive-minded head coach, and we're going to go ahead and do this the right way, the way I said the Yankees should do it, go back to doing it, and the Mets should go back to doing it, and let this thing breathe. But this is what Daniel Snyder did 23 years ago, making big trades and signing Bruce Smith past his prime, Deion Sanders past his prime, and that team didn't do nothing in 2000. They didn't do nothing that year, you know. They were a bunch of big names and has-beens, okay? I think he's a little irritated that now there were some reports that he pressed, David Tepper pressed for them to get Bryce Young, that management wanted Stroud. Well, Stroud, the sensational rookie of the year quarterback for Houston, it looks like he's going to be the better player. That's the one I said that I thought that they should have drafted. When they traded their best receiver to the Carolina Panther, or to the Bears, and this year's number 1 pick to the Bears, and they got often injured Bryce Young, and undersized Bryce Young. So get your personnel people, get your general manager, and tell these scouts, I'll double whatever. He's got the money. This guy's one of the richest owners in the whole league. You know, hedge fund manager, and say, listen, man, he's right there with the Denver guy. We're going to go out here and get the best personnel people we can get, okay? Get the absolute best. Then get your coach. Then get your war room set up. Say, I'm going to give these guys 3 years, no matter what, not unless there's something unethical. Again, to emphasize on that, preferably 5, but let's do 3. And your general manager, nobody bets 1,000. Just like this article says, nobody bets 1,000 in this league. The best general manager, Ozzie Newsome, could not draft receivers. Ozzie Newsome is my favorite general manager of all time. Used to be the general manager of the Ravens. He's recently retired. Multiple Hall of Famers, including Ray Lewis on defense, left tackle. And Linda says he should be forced to sell the team. He's Daniel Snyder 2.0. Daniel Snyder sells the team to this Josh guy. And now this guy's going in here. This is not a balance sheet. You can't do this overnight like this. You got to let these things breathe a little bit. Now, Matt Rule's retirement's paid for. Frank Wright's retirement's paid for twice by 2 crazy owners. He's got a little gray-headed. Maybe he wants to retire. I wouldn't want to retire. I'd still want to work. I wouldn't want to work with a micromanager like that, you know. But he's learning. They've already gave up their draft capital. You got to. I would not go defensive. I will go offensive, and I will go offensive line and protect this guy and give him at least 3 more years, Bryce Young, since you spent the number 1 pick on him. We know he's a skilled player. My thing is he gets hurt all the time. You know, that's something that I would definitely look at keeping Bryce Young for a little while longer. Plus, he's shown some moments there. He looked pretty good yesterday, actually. I watched him here in Nashville. So it's, you can't buy a Super Bowl overnight, man. I don't understand this about these owners. How come they don't do their research? These guys are so successful in other lines of businesses, finance, you name it, right? Why don't they study the winning organizations? The Steelers have had 3 coaches since 1969. They're very rarely, ever ever out of the playoffs. They have 6 Super Bowls. They are tied for the most Super Bowl wins in all of the NFL. And they're very stable. They just fired offensive coordinator, but they're very stable as far as doing crazy stuff in the middle of the year, as far as head coaching is concerned and management is concerned. You know, but I just don't see how these guys see that. Maybe it's like a toy to them. I don't know. But my thing is, if you show chaos like that, you're not going to get. And I say be patient with these guys because you want to attract other talented people to your organization. Okay, if it gets really bad, we know what Eli Manning. He says, "I'm not playing for." Archie said, "No, my son will not play for this then San Diego Chargers." And I think there was the same owner, the Spanos family. He says they won't play. And was it 20 years earlier? John Elway says, "I'm not going to play for Jim Irsay Sr." I know who that guy is up there in Baltimore. Then I think it was a Baltimore Colts there. He ended up moving the team to, ironically, I want to say that same year that Elway said he would not play for the Baltimore Colts, they moved to Indianapolis in the middle of the night, Pickles, I think, after the season. You know? So Carlos says it's not common sense, it's money, man. Yeah, they don't know. Yeah, I just don't understand that, man. Yeah, if you're strong in one field, you got to. Part of success is surrounding people yourself with people who know something that you don't. You know, I don't understand why these people can't understand that. You know. Yeah, he said he would play for the Yankees. Bo Jackson said he wouldn't. I saw this in a documentary. Bo Jackson said he wouldn't play for the Tampa Bay. There was something about the owner then of the Buccaneers did something to mess up old Jackson's eligibility. He says, I wouldn't play for that guy. I'm not going to play for the owner. I will not play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't like the way that guy did me, and he didn't. Now, remember, he got drafted to the Raiders instead. So you don't want to be that guy, Mr. Tepper. You don't want to be that guy, and you're quickly becoming that guy, you know? So that being said, again, Frank Reich may not be head coaching material. This guy needs to take his time, get the right people, and let this stuff bake again. These owners want a half-baked cake here and wonder why it don't taste right, in my opinion. So anyways, okay, there was a game last night. I skipped over his story because I got hyped up on Tepper. Guy gets on my nerves, man. Okay, Chargers, Baltimore. You know, the Chargers record is they've got as many wins, no offense, Lyndon and Mac, but they've got as many wins as the Giants do. The Titans, teams that are considerably rebuilding at this point, one team without a starting quarterback, without they're on the third string. Excuse me, the Giants are on third string quarterback. Tennessee didn't know they was rebuilding, and then they got into this year and they realized, okay, we're rebuilding. Okay, we're not retooling, we're not reshuffling, we're rebuilding. You know, but Tampa is going to be. I told you, Tampa that lost again. They're 4-7 too. They're going to be a train wreck. You guys didn't know it, but I'm telling you, that's why they pay me the big bucks, right? But this Charger team. Justin Herbert, mega talent, man. Mega talent. More than capable left tackle Rashawn Slater. Pro Bowl level Keenan Allen. Jalen Gunton is a great deep threat there. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Derwin James, all pro level talent. And they are sitting there at 4-7. This is one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of this game. and you can say, well, I don't know. Listen, man. Coaches that get fired with this kind of talent for losing in the first round of the playoffs, it's unheard of almost to be this healthy and be 4-7 with this kind of talent. It's almost, they should have beat Tennessee earlier this year, you know. But they should have beat Miami in week 1. That's 2 more wins right there off the top of my head. Desperation alone, they should have beat the Baltimore Ravens Sunday. But they didn't. They did. Austin Eckler, Pickle says. Yeah, and I know Mike Williams is hurt. Quentin Johnson. And they got a really good Tom Presslio or whatever. He's a very good general manager. He missed, apparently, on Quentin Johnson, the TCU wide receiver. And the Rams are $70 million in dead cap this year. The Rams are. 70, and they got a better record than this LA Charger team. I mean, that I'm just trying to give you proper perspective of how much this kid's over his head. Now, if Tepper on the Chargers, now I can see him doing it to Staley. That's deserved so, you know. But it's got to the point now where if this guy who's on the opposite of David Tepper, who's supposedly really cheap when it comes to a coach, this Mr. Spanos here, you got to wonder, maybe would it be a good idea if simply Justin Herbert asked to be traded? You know? Now, he's already signed this big deal. He's always wanted to play for the Chargers. This is probably not going to happen. But I wouldn't blame him if he said, listen, man, trade me, man. If you can't afford a coach here, if you want to get some kid from a staff here, but Sean Payton was out there, you know, if Tepper was in this situation and he fires the coach a few years ago, or I'm saying he could have fired Staley last year, and you got Sean Payton, who's, they 5 wins now straight? 5 wins for the Denver head coach? He goes out and if you got Sean Payton with this team could be in the Super Bowl. Because I think Baltimore beats himself up every year. They're going to get hurt, you know. The Chargers have their problems, or the Chiefs have their problems there on offense and everything. They're getting a little old in some spots. Travis Kelce. You put Sean Payton with this team, yeah, they're right there. They're the team that I thought they would be, which have the best record in the AFC. You know? So, like I said, man, I wouldn't really blame him. I mean, I really don't like to see players do that, to force themselves off teams like that. But at some point, and my guess is he'll probably let him go. He'll probably let Staley go. But you hope they don't get some guy you've never heard of, or some young, cheap coach again to coach a Justin Herbert level talent. I mean, this is going to be Phillip Rivers 2.0. You know, a lot of people saying Phillip Rivers is he's a Hall of Famer. I didn't really like Phillip Rivers' attitude. He kind of reminded me of Jeff George, except he had a more successful career. George was a very hard player for people to get along with. So was Rivers. But they always had the same issues. They always were they were right there. The Chargers were right there. And they couldn't get over the hump because it looked like the owner was trying to cut corners somewhere. You know? Instead of getting a big-name coach, an offensive-minded, proven head coach, when he fired, what's the guy's name? Marty Schottenheimer in 2006. They were 14-2. and they lost their divisional game to New England that year. And he fired him, Schottenheimer, because he was too conservative. Instead of going out and making a big move and going after a proven offensive-minded head coach, he goes out and gets a guy that's already been fired, who is not head coaching material, Norv Turner. I want to say he was fired at Washington. He was horrible as a head coach. Very mild-mannered, way too passive. And we know what happened there. They got to the playoffs, but they were a little bit worse. And their window closed, and LT, Sean Marion, Phillip Rivers, and all those players, it didn't work out for them. You know, Quentin Jammer. I mean, they had a really good team. They had a really good team on both sides, you know. Antonio Gates, Pickles, Hall of Famer, there at tight end, and nothing to show for it. Nothing to show for it because the owner didn't want to make that big splash. You know, a lot of this is just bad ownership, you know. It starts at the top, right? Crap rolls downhill. Yeah, he ran, Norv Turner ran the offense for Jimmy Johnson, and Norv Turner lived off that for the next 25 years. He's been the offensive coordinator for just about every team in the league. My dad would say he's been fired more times than Davy Crockett's rifle. Him and Dave Wanstead, good guys. Neither one of them. That was the defensive coordinator for those Cowboy teams. Neither one of them had coaching material. Not quite the Parcells coaching tree that Jimmy Johnson had. But like I said, I really hope that's not the case. I hope this guy comes to his senses, this Spanos, go out, get a good offensive-minded head coach who's got a little sense here, go out, spend the money, get a real defensive coordinator here, and go out there and compete, man. If not, we're going to see Phillip Rivers 2.0. So, anyways, once the owner sold Seau and the defense suffered. Yeah, Junior Seau. I love Seau, man. I really hate that what happened to him. 1994-95 Super Bowl. Marion couldn't help that defense. Chad Collins says, hey, man, appreciate it, Chad. Appreciate it. Okay, good scope. I said the Eagles will win close, but they would win ugly. Me and Carlos, we agreed on that. Due to the fact that they weren't that far removed from their bye week. And even though the Bills were desperate for a win, their defense would probably let them down because they've had a defensive tackle out, Daquan Jones, and Milano, their best linebacker, out. That's why I thought maybe they would go after Shaq Leonard. By the way, Dallas, go shine Shaq Leonard. Do not let the Eagles scoop him up, who they're interested in, by the way. Dallas Cowboy fans, don't lose the arms race. The Eagles are getting everybody. They got Kevin Byard, okay? They got Zach Cunningham from Tennessee. Don't let them get Shaq Leonard, too, and stack their team. But anyways, okay. But either way, I was right. Eagles won. The Bills would lose. I said that Friday with Carlos New Yorker Chavez. Bad scope. Ever picking the Saints to do anything? Okay? The Saints are about 2 years removed from should have rebuilt. All right? Derek Carr lost his confidence. And this Dennis Allen, who was fired from the Raiders years ago, excellent defensive coordinator, Pickles. Dennis Allen, really good. Remember last year or the year before last when he was the interim coach and he shut Brady down just about every time Brady was at the played the Saints during his tenure with Tampa. But this guy's like a Norv Turner, like a Frank. He's not head coaching material. I'm never taking the Saints again. They lost to the Falcons with Derek Carr who's supposed to be a better quarterback than Britter, who that team's definitely looking for a quarterback. No touchdowns Sunday in a must-win game for Carr. One interception, 77 quarterback rating. Again, Mickey Loomis, general manager of the New Orleans Saints, bite the bullet and blow this thing up. You've been putting it off for 2 years. You lead the league in the least cap space. You're either 80 to $100 million over in New Orleans. Go ahead and do what you have to do and blow this thing up. Go out and get you a real coach and start over. Okay? So I was wrong about the Saints beating the Falcons, and I was wrong about the Saints. I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe they still might win a division. Either way, they're getting old. They're getting expensive. Other than Chris Olave and maybe Lattimore, everybody else will be out of there. Mike Thomas, Derek Carr, even Kamara, all these guys will be gone. Nick Taysom Hill, who called the whole thing, Pickles, I would just go boom. I'll blow the whole thing all to smithereens and start over from scratch. Okay? Good scope. Picking Michigan over Ohio State, folks. I said 27-20. It was 30-24. Almost nailed the exact score. Michigan without Harbaugh on the sidelines. Got to give this guy, let me make sure I got his name right, Sharon Moore, going for it on fourth down. J.J. McCartney, 0 interceptions. Kyle McCord, 2 interceptions for Ohio State. Michigan played an almost nearly flawless game, and Ohio State's defense was really good. It was really good, but Michigan played really well. Very good job there from the interim head coach there, Sharon Moore there. Only 3 penalties. In that game for Michigan. Now, I can't throw Rondé too far under the bus. They only had 1 penalty, but they had 2 critical turnovers for Ohio State. One turned into an early touchdown, and the other one was to seal the game. Michigan 3-game winning streak. Said they would do it. A lot of people said they wouldn't do it. My man Keith Engel said they wouldn't do it, but they pulled it off. Michigan goes on and plays Iowa this week, and I expect them to manhandle them. And Jim Harbaugh will be back on the sideline Saturday night. Bad scope. Assuming the Jets would maintain the high level of play after beating Philadelphia earlier this year. I just talked about that. The defense has lightened up due to so much time on the field, offensive line injuries. Zach Wilson has regressed. They've had to bench him, and now the team looks to have, as I just talked about earlier, they're going to have to address the big, giant 2 elephants in a room, left tackle and young quarterback. And just own the fact that you made a mistake with this whole Aaron Rodgers thing and move on. Just own it, move on. You know? Okay, bad scope. Of course, that was part of my bad. Like I said earlier, the 124-yard touchdown return to Devin Holland. Safety ran off a Hail Mary pick 6. Good scope. Picking Jacksonville to beat Houston on the road despite being manhandled by Houston earlier this season. Houston has a bright future, but their lack of depth on defense, like I said, they had a starting safety and a linebacker out, and it looks like that Jacksonville has their footing there. Trevor Lawrence, really good game there. Another good game there. Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Lawrence really spreading the ball around. Said after the game that he knows for years to come this is going to be a good, fun, friendly rival with C.J. Stroud. They did get the win on the road. These 2 teams are set up. This is going to be really good. Now the Titans got to get it together because these teams are kicking butt. That was a very playoff-like atmosphere there. Stroud made a few plays down the stretch. Jacksonville and Lawrence did more. They almost got a little greedy there at the very end. There was a goal line 4th down stop there by Houston on ETN. But that being said, Jacksonville, big win there. Lawrence throwing rockets there. Very good game. That was a very underrated game, as I said it would be, coming down here to the last possession. Jacksonville gets the win, and I go +1 on Carlos, who says Houston lost their Super Bowl. Well, so now I currently lead Carlos in our battle there. It took me a while to catch him. One way or another, I'm going to get you. I'm just kidding, man. I appreciate you coming on Friday nights there. 2 sacks in them in the end. So it's they did. And kudos to Josh Allen, the defensive end, and played really well for Jacksonville at the very end. I tell you, folks, this is a battle of attrition in the NFL. Don't be surprised if the Jacksonville Jaguars slide into the Super Bowl this year because of the battle of attrition in the AFC. Even the Ravens are starting to get a lot of injuries. Okay. Denver's surging, but everybody's got their share of injuries in the AFC. I know that Kansas City, Rashid Rice there, I said they would bounce back too, by the way. 106 yards, 6 catches, and a touchdown there. That guy's going to eventually work out for Pat Mahomes. Okay. But that being said, with Buffalo slipping, Cincinnati out of it with Burrow, lack of offensive creativity, although I had a pretty good game yardage-wise. What did they score? 13 points, Pittsburgh did, with their new offensive coordinator, Joe Brady. So it's AFC's wide open, folks. It's no set. NFC, it feels like it's probably 3 teams. It's going to be, my favorite would be San Francisco, followed by Philadelphia, the way they're playing right now, and the Dallas. And Dallas needs to get Shaq Leonard. I'm telling you, Dallas fans, do not lose that piece of the arms race. Leighton Vander Esch has been out for a while. I think he's out for the season. Dallas can lose a Shaq Leonard there. So tomorrow, I'll give you my Power 5 after tonight's game. I can't wait to see what's happening with Minnesota, another hot team there that has a shot. And, of course, if you want to say bad scope there, Detroit letting me down there. Detroit not quite ready for primetime. They do lack depth on the back end. Carlos called that out. That's a good point there. They had one of the worst secondaries in the league last year, and their free agent guys that they've added have been hurt most of the year. Emmanuel Mosley and Gardner Johnson, who played really well with the Eagles last year, has been out for a while. And Detroit, Detroit's been giving up a lot of points, and they can't outscore people every week, man. They really can't. And I think Dave Campbell, I still think they'll probably win. I still think they'll probably win their division, but it's not going to be a walk in the park. They've got to get used to people gunning for them. Now them being a contender, best record since 1962. We bragged on them, then they get beat in their own backyard by Green Bay. So if you guys like the show, share the show. I'll be back on tomorrow, get into some more games there. Give you the Power 5 and more. So anyways, and I do think Jared Goff, a guy who's played in the Super Bowl, I think he's not too bad, Carlos. You can hate on him all you want to, but the facts are the facts. Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow, same place, same time here on Sports Scope.